Welcome to the Missouri Valley Football Teleconference. My name is Bonnie, and I will be your conference operator today. All lines have been placed on mute to prevent any background noise. If you would like to ask a question during the call, press star, then the number 1 on your telephone keypad. If you would like to withdraw your question, press the pound key. Thank you. I would now like to turn the call over to Mr. Mike Kern. Please go ahead, sir.
Thanks, Bonnie, and we welcome Coach Eric Wolford of Youngstown State with us. Good morning, Coach.
Oh,
hi, Wolf. How are you?
I'm doing good. What's going on?
Yeah, sorry to keep you waiting there a few minutes. I was trying to figure out how to set up my record line.
You're on?
I was recording the call and making it live on YouTube so the world can hear you.
Oh, perfect.
Great. Well, let's talk about Duquesne. They're coming to town this weekend. Home opener for the Penguins, ranked in both polls. Let's talk about this Saturday's matchup for us.
Well, Duquesne got off to a pretty good start. Had a chance to beat Buffalo late in the game. They had them down 28-24. And really came out and played pretty well on both sides of the ball and did some good things in special teams. So I think they're a much improved team from last year. Threw the ball all over the ballpark and, running a very similar style of defensive scheme that they did last year. So obviously Buffalo was a MAC team, and they went in there and played a MAC team that was 8-4 last year and played them really well. So I'm sure they're happy with their progress from last year, and we'll have our hands full here in the Castle.
Thank you, Coach. Let's go ahead and open it up now for some questions for you. Questions for Coach Eric Wolford of Youngstown State.
To ask Coach a question, press star, then the number 1 on your telephone keypad. We'll pause for just a moment to compile the Q&A roster. Our first question comes from Wendell Scranton of the Springfield News Leader.
Your new quarterback played in the opener.
You know what? I didn't hear your whole question.
Yeah, how would you say your quarterback played in his first start?
First game, I thought he did some good things. We kept the reins on him a little bit just because it was first game out the box for him. But thought he did some good things. He'd like to have a couple plays back as far as just maybe working a different side of the field. But I was pretty encouraged overall, and I think he showed his ability to run, obviously, and he can throw the ball.
Thank you.
Our next question comes from Scott Holland of the McDonough County Voice.
Good morning, Coach.
How you doing, Scott?
Not too bad. How about yourself?
I'm doing great.
How do you guys played at FBS school week 1? How did that kind of prepare your team for the week-to-week grind that you encounter in the Valley?
Well, the thing is we played an Illinois team that I thought improved from last year when you look at the tape compared to last year to this year. But, there's some teams in our league that are just as physical up front on the line of scrimmage across the board. So I'd be willing to bet if you gave some of these teams in the Valley 22 more scholarships, I think they could make some noise all over the country. It's there's not that big of a disparity maybe as people think there is. It's talked about a lot, but really I don't think there is. And you look at this past week's games. Obviously, North Dakota State got another win for the conference. A great job by those guys. South Dakota State was playing Missouri obviously well. Northern Iowa played Iowa very well. We had a fair game there, and we had our chances against Illinois. So you look at those games against conference matchups. I think you look at it and say, well, these games can be much closer than people anticipate, and really Indiana State fared pretty well against Indiana. So Indiana's supposed to have a good team this year. So I think as a Valley, we'd like to win more of these games, but we've definitely narrowed the gap and closed them down.
Thank you, Coach.
Again, to ask a question, press star 1.
Coach, I do see one more question in the queue. We'll take it up in just a second.
All right.
Bonnie? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Oh, I see Jeff Kolpak in the queue.
Jeff Kolpak from Florida Forum.
Thanks. Eric, when you were in Champaign, was there any talk about the Big Ten scheduling model with either Illinois coaches or administrators or anything like that?
I think, just secondhand information. I think they're going to they may go back on their original Perry Alvarez comment or, about Delaney not scheduling FCS teams. They are talking about going to a 10, and this is all secondhand information, but they're talking about going to a 10-game schedule. And then if they do that, then they'll allow us to play. They'll allow the Big Ten schools to play a FCS opponent. So I hope that goes through. Those are obviously good paydays for all of us. We like those paydays like that.
Great, thank you.
Coach, that was your final question. Thank you for your time. Good luck against Duquesne this weekend.
Thanks, sir.
See you, Wolf. Let's get next to Coach Mark Farley of Northern Iowa. The Panthers coming off of a hard-fought loss against Iowa last week. Do not have a game this weekend before playing their next game, also against an FBS team going to Hawaii for a game on September 13th. Morning, Mark.
Good morning.
Hey, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. I guess we can talk a little bit about the week off and how you prepare for a game in Hawaii, far away, of course, and certainly getting out there and getting back, and a game the following week against Northern Colorado in your home opener. But talk about preparation for your game at Hawaii.
Well, that'll be interesting. It's the trip is what you try to get prepared for. So we'll do a lot of our work on Hawaii this week, knowing that we'll be on travel mode next week. So we'll just adapt and adjust. It's the first time for us, so we'll make the best of it.
Thank you, Coach. Let's go now to the question for Coach Mark Farley. Questions from the media.
To ask Coach a question, press star 1. Do you have a question from Scott Holland of the McDonough County Voice?
Coach?
Yes.
Coach, you guys have played a lot of FBS schools the last few years and in your tenure at Northern Iowa. What do you think is the biggest difference between that level of competition and what you guys see in the Valley?
I don't know if that much anymore. There's some, we see a lot of good players in the Valley, and that question was probably an easier question 5 years ago, but right now, there's not a lot of difference anymore. I mean, the games in this league are very physical. We were in a physical game the other day, and I can't say that it was any different than ones that will be in our league. So I think there's a lot of equity now, and you can see by the scores. And, if you put those games on neutral sites, it may even make up the difference in those scores. So it's very valuable for us to play them. There's no question about that. But as far as the talent on the field and the coaching on the sidelines, there's not a lot of differences.
Thank you, Coach.
Our next question comes from Jim Sullivan of the Waterloo Courier.
Came out of this game with Iowa a little bit better physically than you did 2 years ago?
Much better. Where that was the biggest difference probably is that, we got in the kind of game with them that we'd hoped, and physically and things like that, we came out of it much better. So we're just going about our business and get ready. We could play this week and probably feel pretty good about it, but we've got a week now to, even for the ones that did, get hit like in any game, it gives them a little bit more time coming out of camp and coming out of the Iowa game to get ready for the rest of the season.
Tell me a little bit about Brett McMakin's game. He was a guy that started 4 times for you last year, and now he's back in the starting lineup and had a pretty big statistical game. How did How do you evaluate the way he plays?
I thought he played well. He gets better each time he plays. He started the last 3 games of the season for us last year and got to start this game. And, you know, he's athletic and he's big. And we had to get big against Iowa. So we used him, and he was very effective. And looking forward to see how he progresses from here now.
Okay, thanks, Mark.
Coach, that was your final question for us. Thank you for your time this morning. Good luck in your preparation for Hawaii. We'll talk to you next week.
All right, thanks.
Thanks. We do have Coach Mike Sanford of Indiana State with us. The Sycamores opening up at home against Tennessee Tech after playing at Indiana this past week. Morning, Mike.
Mike, your line is open.
Hello?
Hey, Mike, this is Ace. I'm grabbing him out of the
That's great. Thanks, Ace.
I have to make one guest appearance a year on this.
We're going to start asking you some questions.
All right. Hello, this is Mike Sanford.
Hi, Coach. It's Mike Kern. How are you?
Good. How are you, Mike?
Good. Well, let's talk about your game against Tennessee Tech. Preview Saturday's home opener for us, and then we'll open it up for some questions.
Okay. Do you want me to address anything about our previous game?
Yeah, you know what? Let's talk about your game at IU. Certainly a representative game there. Certainly no moral victories, but talk about your game at Indiana.
Okay. Well, first of all, I felt like our team just overall approached the game with a great attitude, and I feel like we competed and we put ourselves in a position. My deal was to be in a position to win the game in the fourth quarter. And early in the game, we had 2 opportunities. Opening drive, we took it down, missed a field goal. Then we ended up kicking a field goal in the red zone. And if we had scored on those 2 drives, touchdowns, my feeling was legitimately we were 21-21 at the end of the third quarter, beginning of the fourth quarter, and having a chance to win the game. So unfortunately, we did not do that, and there were some positives in the game, but we have a lot of things to improve on, and we must improve our tackling, and we must improve our red zone scoring on offense. We had, I think, exciting new player for us. You don't usually talk a lot about a punter, but I'm excited about our punter, Osborne Ume, who's a junior college transfer who had a really good day, had a 58-yard punt and a 51-yard punt. And, it has a chance to be really special. So he's somebody that I think the people that cover the Missouri Valley Conference need to take a look at, keep an eye on. Connor Underwood, had I think he had 4 sacks. Yeah, he had 4 tackles for loss, and he's a guy that obviously people in our conference know about. So anyway, that's it about our IU game. We go into a home game this week. We're excited to be home. We're playing Tennessee Tech from the Ohio Valley Conference. We had a very difficult loss to them last year that still sticks in our craw. We did not play well on special teams. We did not, we were ahead in the game. We let them back into the game, and this is a very important game for us, our home opener, and we want to represent the Missouri Valley Conference well and ourselves well at home. So we have a huge emphasis on this game.
Thank you, Coach. Let's go ahead and open it up now for questions from the media for Coach Mike Sanford.
To ask Coach a question, press star 1. Again, for questions, press star 1.
Coach, you mentioned some of the things that went well last week, and you did not touch on Buck Logan and talk about his play as we're starting to.
Well, Buck Logan, we ended up with not great rushing yardage because late in the game we were trying to make some things happen, had some sacks. Buck Logan played well, had 2 big runs, and we expect a lot out of Buck as the season goes on. Quarterback Mike Parrish, I think, played efficiently. We had no turnovers. We ended up the game +2 on turnovers. We had an interception. Travis Starks had an interception. We had no turnovers on offense, and then we got a fumble on a punt return where their returner fumbled, and we recovered it. So that was a plus. Those were a couple pluses. I think our pass defense improved, and that's something that I expect to continue to improve as the season goes on.
Lastly, Mike, before we let you go, just an overall grade in terms of how you came out injury-wise, A through F. How was the health team?
I would say coming, just purely out of this game, I would probably say maybe B+. Coming out of the game from an injury standpoint. Prior to this game, we had a couple injuries in training camp, but coming out of this game, I'd give us, based on the guys that we had available and have available, I'd say a B+. Coach,
thank you for your time this morning. Appreciate it, and good luck against Tennessee Tech.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks, Mike.
Bye.
We have Coach Brock's back at Illinois State. The Redbirds finally get to open up their season. It seems like everybody else has been playing for a long time, but Mississippi Valley State comes to Hancock Stadium to play the Redbirds on Saturday. The game will be televised on Comcast Chicago. Morning, Brock.
Good morning, Mike. How are you?
Good. Let's talk about Mississippi Valley State. What can you tell me from looking at their one game?
We don't have the film, so it's hard to say. we really don't know what we're gonna get, and it's a new staff. I think they were all at Jackson State a year ago, so we're just kind of shooting in the dark with what we might get. So just trying to make phone calls and trying to get some background on the coaches and see what their philosophies are, and from people who played them in the past, the places they've been before, and that's about all we can go on.
Okay, thank you, Coach. Let's go ahead and open it up for some questions from the media for you. Questions for Coach Broxback.
To ask Coach a question, press star 1. Our first question comes from Wendell Scranton of the Springfield News Leader.
The Valley teams play. Anything that surprised you or jumped out at you?
I didn't hear your whole question, so can you give it to me again? I'm sorry.
Yeah, anything that surprised you about the Valley teams last weekend as you watched from afar?
No. I expected all of those guys to play well, and they didn't disappoint. Our league is very good from top to bottom. You knew that Indiana State would be vastly improved, and they are, and as is Western Illinois. So I think we represent ourselves very well, and I don't think that's any surprise in this league. As I keep telling the friends and across that I know that this is from top to bottom the best league as far as parity and that I've ever coached in. It's a tremendous league.
Our next question comes from Jeff Colpath of the Fargo Forum.
Hey, Brock, in this day of lightning fast communication and email, how does one not get a film?
We're not, we didn't play last weekend and they did and they're not letting it out. So, usually you find ways to find those tapes but I guess their policy is supposed to have their tape up on their line by Sunday, but they didn't do it. So we don't have film. So it rained really bad there. I talked to the opposing coach last weekend, and they weren't allowed to film inside, so they had no film, and then they didn't send the film to them. So we don't have any film on them. So what can I say? You guys played them a couple years ago, right?
Yeah, over the years, a couple times.
When's the last time you played them?
It must have been 4 or 5 years ago, I bet.
Yeah, they got a new coach now, so it's new staff. I get it. They probably don't want to put all that out there for anybody to see. So it's just started to find. Couldn't find any tape. That's the way it is.
Thanks.
You bet.
Coach, looks like that's it for you. Appreciate your time this morning, and good luck against Mississippi Valley State on Saturday.
All right, Mike. Thanks.
Okay.
Have a good day. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye-bye. Western Illinois' Bob Nielsen has joined us, and the Leathernecks opened up their season last Thursday with a 45-6 result against Valpo at home. This week off to Wisconsin. Good morning, Coach.
Hello.
Hello, Bob.
Hello, Bob. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks, Mike.
Good. Let's talk about the Badgers. The game on Saturday will be on the Big Ten Network at 11 o'clock Central. And talk about this game on Saturday, and certainly a much different opponent than Valpo.
Well, that'd be an understatement. One of the best teams in the country. They demonstrated that with their performance on Saturday night against LSU, and so great challenge for us. And I think the thing that they demonstrated is they're one of the best rushing football teams, if not the best rushing football team in the country, and so that's where you have to start. You're not going to stop them from running the football, but you got to find a way to contain their rushing game, and I think the key thing for us is we've got to be able to find a way to at least move the ball with enough consistency that we don't let them have the football for big chunks of time.
Thank you, Bob. Let's go ahead and open it up now for questions for Coach Bob Nielsen, questions from the media.
To ask Coach a question, press star 1 on your telephone keypad. Our first question comes from Andy Baggett of Wisconsin State.
Hey. How are you today, Bob?
I'm good, Andy. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Last time I saw you were at Duluth, so it's a change for things. Obviously, you're aware of the change in policy in the Big Ten with regards to FCS, but that's not the direction they want to go in anymore. How do you fill that void? I know it filled a lot of things for you, the competition, the finances, all that type of thing. What do you do now to fill that void?
Well, Andy, we've actually got Big Ten games scheduled through 2018, so I'm assuming some of those games are going to continue to be played through that period. But they're great challenges. It's a situation where certainly the financial part is important to programs like ours. If the Big Ten goes away from scheduling those games completely, it's gonna force I think FCS schools to look internally and try to find quality games throughout the different conferences. And certainly there's enough really good leagues and balanced leagues that you should be able to do that. It have the biggest impact on financing your program and where you're going to find some of the resources that the guarantee games generate.
If I might ask, what is the guarantee that you're getting for this game?
You know what? I think we're in the $450,000 range. I should know that number exactly, but I believe that's where we're at.
And that pays for quite a bit, doesn't it?
Well, in a trip where you can drive, it's obviously the majority of that we don't have to fly and charter. It's a lot of that game is money that goes back into your budget to help fund your program. And we're in a little bit of a unique situation this year where we're actually playing 2 Big Ten schools, something that from a scheduling standpoint, makes our schedule, I think, one of the toughest in the country. And So, for us this year, 2 guarantee games like that are, significant funding source.
Who else do you have scheduled? I know that they were grandfathering this thing in, so if you're on the schedule, it's going to stay that way. Who else do you have Big Ten games against as the years unfold here?
Yeah, we got Northwestern this year, weeks. So we're playing Wisconsin, then we're home, and then we're at Northwestern. We have Illinois on the schedule for next year. We have future games in 17 and 18 against Northwestern and Illinois again that are scheduled right now. And it's not to say that those schedules aren't going to change. I mean, that happens all the time. But we've scheduled out that far against Big Ten opponents.
Smart thinking. That's some smart thinking.
Well, I appreciate that.
You built a dynasty up there in Duluth, obviously a quality product. Where is your efforts right now in getting? What's the gap between the Duluth program you left and the Western Illinois program that you have right now in terms of where you want it?
Well, we've got ways to go here, Andy, to get to be what I'd call a highly competitive program at this level. I just kind of interesting look at our statistics from last week's game, and all but 30 yards of our 600 yards in offense were generated by people that we brought into the program in the year and a half that we've been here. That tells you a little bit about our youth. And the one thing that, the good FCS teams that are able to compete at a national level have year in and year out is, they've developed upperclassmen. And so we took a little different approach here. Even though we recruited some transfers, we're trying to build that base of freshmen that you develop in your program and redshirt to develop them. And we did that a year ago. We're doing it again this year. So we've got some work to do there, and trying to establish ourselves, as a team that can be consistent year in, year out with our performance. And the other thing is obviously continuity of coaching staff at this level is critical. You look at the programs that are national contenders year in, year out. They're coaches that have been there, that have built sound programs, that have been able to keep at least a core group of their coaching staff, and that's something that we've got to make a commitment to here to do as well.
J.C. Baker played with Tanner McAvoy in Arizona at the junior college. I'm sure you've tapped into his expertise as to what weaknesses and strengths Tanner might have.
Well, yeah, we've talked a little bit with J.C. JC's such a great kid, and they did overlap there for for the 1 year, and he speaks very highly of him, and obviously an outstanding young man who's a high quality athlete, and it's been an interesting track when you look at the fact that it's pretty unusual to see a guy that plays defensive back 1 year at that level and then comes and plays quarterback the next year, so he brings a lot of athletic tools to that position at Wisconsin.
Bob, good luck. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Ernie.
Our next question comes from Jeff Kolpak of the Fargo Forum.
Scheduled in the future, is that true or not?
Hey, Jeff, you cut out there. I didn't get all your question.
Yeah, I could have sworn that Patty told me you have the Gophers scheduled in the future at some point. Is that true?
Nope, not unless the AD just scheduled that. No, we've got Northwestern, Illinois on the schedule beyond this year, but those are the only Big Ten teams that we've got scheduled. And I think the last year we've got that scheduled was 2018.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Coach, that was your final question. I want to thank you for your time this morning. Appreciate it, and good luck in Madison.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Bob. Let's connect to Dale Lennon of Southern Illinois. The Salukis coming off of a shutout victory against Taylor last Thursday, facing Eastern Illinois. Panthers ranked in both polls, 14 in one and 16 in the other. Good morning, Coach.
Morning, Mike.
How are you?
What now?
I said, how are you?
Oh, I'm fine. I'm doing real well, so it's hard of hearing.
Okay. Let's talk about Eastern Illinois, and certainly a tough test on the road against an FCS-ranked opponent. Preview the game against the Panthers, and then we'll open it up for some questions.
Yeah, this has turned into a rivalry game. I think on both ends, our games have always been very competitive, very heated. There's been some significance to the game, I think, on the national scene, and you could argue that our double overtime loss last year was a loss that kind of kept us out of being a top-ranked team and out of the playoffs during the course of the season. So this is going to be heated, and the players know each other, and it's a game that I think both teams look forward to, and it's just a highly competitive ball game. So we're looking forward to going to Charleston and playing them.
Thank you, Coach. Let's go ahead and open it up now for some questions for you. Questions from the media for Coach Dale Lennon.
To ask Coach a question, press star 1. Our first question comes from Brian Nielsen of the Charleston Times-Courier.
Good morning, Dale. Could you tell about your decision to take over again as defensive coordinator and how you felt that has gone so far after one game?
Well, it's, the 3-4 defense is fairly unique, and especially the way that we run it. So, when looking at the options, if I were to bring in a new D coordinator and run that system, we would have a major overhaul. And especially with this past year, I did have a substantial number of coaches that moved on, and because of that, I was trying to keep things as consistent as possible. And me taking over the coordinating position definitely made it a more consistent transition. Plus, I've been kind of just wanting to do that, get back in it. That's kind of how I made my mark in the profession. And this is a defense that's fun to coordinate. So, that also weighed pretty heavy. That I'd kind of been looking for an opportunity to have a reason to take over the reins.
Also, in defending Eastern Illinois, are there some primary concerns? Someone from Eastern that impressed you the most in the Minnesota game?
They're good. I was just impressed how, they moved the ball up and down the field. They had a couple of those first game mistakes that occurred that, really limited their success on the scoreboard. But, their ability to move the football is extremely impressive. A lot of the athletes that we saw last year are back and are extremely talented. And then you got the addition of Whitlow at the quarterback position. He really makes you defend the entire field. So, it's going to be a challenge, and it's not going to be easy. We just got to find a way to try to slow them down. And I think the key is to just we got to keep our offense out on the field as long as we can, which is going to be a challenge too, because I was impressed with their defensive effort against Minnesota.
And Dale, for people in the Mattoon area, would you say Cameron James is a better linebacker or a radio commentator?
Well, I didn't hear him on the radio this past week, but he's excited. He's part of the program, and that's something that he wanted to, find a way to get involved, and being the sideline reporter for our broadcast team is a perfect way for him to do that. And so I know this too will be a special game for him to be a part of again. So I'm sure he's doing a great job on the radio scene.
Coach, looks like that was your last question, and appreciate your time this morning. Good luck against Eastern Illinois and Charleston.
All right, thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Dale. Let's get next to Coach Joe Glenn of South Dakota. South Dakota with a home opener this weekend in Vermillion, playing William Penn at 2 in the afternoon. Morning, Coach.
Hear me?
Hey, morning, Joe. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Let's talk about William Penn, if you could. Preview the game for us, and then let's open it up for some questions from the media.
Okay. Well, a little bit different than Oregon, I'm sure. I hope. But I'm not kidding you. If you see their tape, you'd be impressed. Triple option offense. You got a quarterback out of Texas that's a senior that's he's legit. The guy is not a pure passer, but he can really run the triple option, and just about everything that they do run me a lot of Air Force when I used to coach against those guys. And I tell you, the extent of that injury, the X-ray on the sideline showed that he had a fracture, and now they'll put him under a real machine today to find out exactly what they got to do, and that's where we're at.
So I guess in the meantime, then, would you just move forward with Ryan Sager in practice this week, then?
That's correct. Ryan is a sophomore out of Heartland, Wisconsin, very successful high school quarterback. Big guy, 6'4", about 225, 230, can run and can throw it. And we, in fall camp, one of the better things coming out of fall camp was the fact we definitely identified Ryan Sager as a backup quarterback. He had a real good camp, showed great leadership, the ability to run or throw, and hate for it to be like this. We're going to miss Kevin a lot. But we're very fortunate that Ryan came through, and because he did not go through spring ball, he was a real bad groin pull. And so we really were happy with what Ryan did in fall camp, and are excited about his opportunity here. But I say again, we're going to miss our John Wayne guy at quarterback. Kevin is going to be dearly missed.
Okay. Thanks, Joe.
Yes.
Again, for questions, press star 1.
Coach, it looks like it's your only line of questioning this morning. Appreciate your time.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, thanks, Joe.
Bye-bye.
And we are now joined by Coach John Stiglmeyer of South Dakota State. Good morning, Coach.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. Cal Poly coming to town. Preview your home opener against the Mustangs, of course, with Austin Summer. We just talked about Kevin Earl not being available for Joe Glenn, and certainly the loss of Austin's a big hit. But talk about moving forward.
Well, first of all, Cal Poly is a good football team. They played them a bunch. They've been part of the Gray West Conference and really have not fared as well as I would have hoped against them. They run the triple option and really have caused us some problems. So hopefully this year that will the result will be a little better. The loss of Austin, I've always been and will continue to be a guy that, hey, the next guy's up. And I don't feel bad for our football team because you can't. But I feel tremendously bad for Austin. He literally is the hardest working guy on our football team, the best leader on our football team, the guy that has led us to a lot of special memories, and it's got a real serious injury. So it reminds us to like we say every day at practice, play like it's your last play, and he does that.
Coach, thank you. Let's go ahead and open it up now for some questions for you. Questions from the media for Coach John Stiglmeyer.
To ask Coach a question, press star 1.
Coach, if there's a question, I think I'll let that go through first.
We do have a question from Terry Vandrova at Company Argus Later Media.
You got me, Stick?
Gotcha.
All right, very good. We've had some audio issues this morning, so sure to get those cleared up. Anything, you have been home now for 48 hours or whatever, anything new with Austin or his status? Coach Glenn mentioned that his quarter might have to undergo surgery. Any updates?
He's getting whatever it is, MRI today or tomorrow, just to check for ligament damage. We know the bone damage is there. That showed up with the X-ray. So we're just trying to figure out if there is additional surgery needed and how to approach it. So that's the only update I've had.
Yeah, and you guys brought in Lujan. You even said at the time that his insurance policy in case Austin's previous injury wasn't there, so you knew he might have to play. But your thoughts on what made him prepared before getting here, what made you ready to step in, and then after seeing a little bit of game action, what are your thoughts on how ready you think?
Well, I think his personality, the fact that he had a good high school career up in Alaska and didn't get what he wanted in terms of offers to play college football at the highest level he wanted to. So he went to, he forego offers, went to junior college to better his lot, to better his situation. And so his mentality was confident and I want to play in these types of games at this level. And so that's the start. He went out to Chabot and had an unbelievable year as a true freshman. I think he told me he was number 6 on the depth chart in fall camp, and at the end he ended up being like the conference player of the year. I'm not into awards, but he's a skilled guy. But I think the biggest thing, a lot like Austin, is his personality and his confidence, his work ethic. And he doesn't have the greatest arm, but he's got a great mind and great confidence, and I'm really excited we have him on the football team.
Thanks.
Again, for questions, press star 1.
Coach, I did the math this morning, and Zach Zenner is within 115 yards of setting the all-time rushing record for the conference, and certainly his career has been impressive with 2 straight 2,000-yard seasons, and his first touch last week, a 75-yard touchdown run against the SEC defending division champs. And talk about Zach being within the record, and then we'll let you go.
Yeah, I don't. We don't talk about that. And if we did, Zach would be disappointed that we zeroed in on any yards he's gotten. He's just a special guy that has worked tremendously hard for what he's gotten and what he's accomplished. Obviously, barring any type of injuries, he'll break that record, and he'll be a guy that'll be remembered for a while. And there'll be other great backs that come along and break his record, I'm expecting. But right now, he just wants to win football games, and I don't. That's not a cliche for him. He's the definition of a guy that is humble, is a team player, is a great leader, great student athlete, and really has accomplished great things because of his desire to be great every day. He's fun to be around.
That's the answer I expected from you. Thank you for your time this morning, and good luck against Cal Poly in your opener.
Thanks, Mike. Take care.
All right. See you, Coach.
Yep, bye.
We do have Chris Kleiman of North Dakota State with us. The Bison setting a record last week by winning their 25th straight game, but the first straight under Coach Kleiman in his debut playing at Iowa State and winning and reeling off 34 straight points in a 34-14 victory. Morning, Coach.
Morning, Mike. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Great.
Good. Let's talk about your next game. It's at Weaver State. Another road game, another tough test on the road, and certainly the game will be a challenge on the road.
No question. We've got to go on the road again in a little different environment. This time we're playing a night game, so we'll sit around a little bit longer on Saturday. That's a challenge that our guys will face, and just to play back-to-back road games to start a season is difficult, and we got to make sure that we don't have a a game 2 hangover, and I don't anticipate that our guys will let that happen, especially the seniors and leaders. But Weber State, we don't know a lot about. They played Arizona State, who's a really exceptional football team, and so it was kind of difficult to tell. But I think they've got some talented kids. They've got a new coaching staff, so we'll have a big challenge come Saturday.
Coach, thank you. Let's open it up now for some questions for you. Questions for the media for Chris Kleiman.
To ask Coach a question, press star 1. Again, for questions, press star 1. Our first question comes from John Oglesby of KSL.
Coach, how you doing this morning? Just wanted to ask you real quick, what on film have you seen of Weber State that you think is going to be one of the key matchups of the game?
Well, I think offensively they've got a really good wide receiver, actually a couple of them, but they've got the transfer quarterback from BYU that I think throws it exceptionally well, and I was really impressed with their front. So our defense will have their hands full, and then their defense just moving in and out of different fronts. We've got to make sure that we're prepared for, basically an odd front and an even front, and be able to make sure that we can make our adjustments, whether it be in the picking up things in the blitz or as well as picking up things in the run game.
Thanks, Coach.
You bet.
Chris, you could talk about strength and conditioning. And last week I watched the game, of course, on Saturday, and I rewatched it again, and the result was the same. But what I noticed was that Iowa State student athletes just struggling with cramps and the conditions on the field on Saturday, and not as much for your ball club. Is that something that you had focused on going into the game, or is that just one of those things?
Well, we definitely focused on it. I give the credit to Jim Kramer, our strength and conditioning coach, and his staff for getting our guys ready throughout the summer and ready throughout fall camp. It was a hot day, not quite as hot as it was at K-State the year before, but it was definitely warm and humid on the field. And it's Jim and his staff that just get our kids ready to play early on in the season. And I think some of the double reps that we do during fall camp probably helps our guys in conditioning. But a lot of these kids have been in that environment before, that had played, and I felt comfortable in that environment. And once again, it's Jim Kramer, and whatever he's got, he needs to bottle it up and sell it as a heck of a recipe.
Coach, thank you. That was your final question. Appreciate your time, and good luck at Weber State on Saturday.
Thanks a bunch, Mike.
Thanks, Chris. Just a couple of minutes ahead. We do have our next coach on the line with us. It's Terry Allen of Missouri State. The Bears, with an impressive come-from-behind victory and their opener at Northwestern State last Thursday. Good morning, Coach.
Good morning, Mike.
Talk about that game briefly, and then we'll turn the page and talk about your game this coming week at Oklahoma State.
Sure, it was. I just finished up listening to Chris, and I think we've got to give our credit to our trainers and our strength and conditioning staff also. We went down there in the heat of Louisiana and really won the fourth quarter, and obviously came back from a 17-point deficit and got I guess you would say, well-earned victory. But, Mike, I'll tell you this, I'm sure throughout this call this morning, obviously when you play a game on Thursday, you get the opportunity to watch your league teams play, and it's a scary task, but I was really impressed with our teams in the league this Saturday. Obviously, North Dakota State doing what they did with 34 unanswered, but UNI outgaining Iowa, Youngstown State outgaining Illinois. I watched the South Dakota State and the Missouri game right here on TV, and they don't give up the kickoff return with the backup quarterback. They're giving Missouri everything, and Indiana State kept it close. Obviously, we've been to Oregon, so we know what happened to South Dakota, but just really impressed with the teams in our league.
Thanks, Coach. Let's go ahead and open it up now for questions for you. Questions for Coach Terry Allen.
To ask Coach a question, press star 1. Again, for questions, that's star 1. Our first question comes from Wendell Scranton of the Springfield News Leader.
Yeah, Terry, how'd you come out injury-wise from the other night?
We lost Tony. You know, he broke that foot. So he's out. And Kern Blamey, I think he's probably what you would call probable for Saturday with an ankle. So obviously losing Tony Jones is tough on us because it's another defensive line. But getting Kern back, so we're pretty good actually.
Beating the Southland Conference team, is that not only big for you guys, but do you look at it as being big for the league, you know, to help out in terms of building?
No question, Linda. I think that, you know, in the last couple of years, our poor non-conference schedule has hurt our league. You know, and we play well in the league, and you turn around and say, well, they can't beat the Southland or whatever. So we talked about that with the team, and obviously on the road doing that speaks well for the Valley, but the Valley spoke pretty well for itself on Saturday.
Mm-hmm. Thanks.
You bet.
Coach, Linda read notes about all the newcomers you had in uniform. You had 26 of your 57 that saw action on Thursday that were new to the program. Talk about the impact for all the new guys.
Sure, Mike. We actually played 9 true freshmen and 9 redshirt freshmen. And that's a little scary, but you know, they came up big. Obviously, Colby Isabel with the blocked field goal and the big turnover of the game as far as being able to recover the fumble down there. And then Eric Phillips, another true freshman, got an interception. So we were a little green there. There's no question about it. And with the daunting task of going to Oklahoma State this next weekend, it's a little bit scary, but they got their feet wet in a positive way.
Coach, thank you, and congratulations, Coach, to Colby for winning a National Player of the Week this past Saturday, or I guess past Thursday for you. But appreciate your time this morning, and that wraps it up.
Thanks, Mike. We'll talk to you later.
Thanks, TJ. This does wrap up this week's call. Appreciate everybody's participation. You can disconnect at this time, and we'll talk to you next Tuesday.